Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final day of Governance Week 2024, our biggest event for the year, as we brought together our largest gathering of leaders in the Caribbean region over a 5-day period to discuss many of the issues of corporate governance. I am Kamala Rampersad de Silva, Chief Executive Officer of the Caribbean Corporate Governance Institute. We are live on YouTube today, which will run for about 15 minutes, and this would also be shared on our social media pages. So welcome to everyone in the room and also to those joining us on the live stream. In this, our 5th annual Governance Week, we have been focusing on the critical theme of regenerative capitalism, promoting exceptional governance for small states. We began with a very successful opening ceremony last Saturday with the opening keynote delivered by one of the world's most influential voices in corporate governance today, Professor John Elkington, originator of the triple bottom line model of people, planet, and profit, who very graciously joined us from his home in the UK. We are heartened by the response to Governance Week by our sponsors and the willingness of over 50 of our business leaders to share their time and expertise as we discuss topics that are critical to the quality of our lives and the lives of generations to come. Over the last 4 days, we have had extremely insightful presentations from opening speakers, each of whom were followed by 3 very successful panel discussions. Yesterday, we ended a successful day 4, which focused on governance of family-owned businesses and SMEs. Aile McGlynn, chairman of Madura Curiel Bank, the largest private sector employer in Curacao and the Dutch Islands, which is more than 100 years old, shared an incredible story of much of the history of the bank and factors that contributed to its success. On Wednesday, we looked at public sector governance in the state enterprises with Jason Farley, chairman of the Guyana National Shipping Corporation. On Tuesday, we had a valuable presentation on the relationship between the board and management by Dr. Dion Chamberlain Miranda from Belize. And we began the week of conference on Monday with A. Cecile Watson from Jamaica, who gave a very insightful presentation on executing the board strategy as we looked at governance in the private sector. Today, we move our attention to the governance of groups and conglomerates. But before we get to today's presenter, who is Dereck Rajack, Chief Executive Officer of the Caribbean Information and Credit Rating Services Limited, I want to thank our sponsors of Governance Week 2024. As you would have seen in our opening sponsors video, we have 2 gold sponsors, First Citizens Bank and the Massey Group. We have 5 bronze sponsors, Angostura Limited, Republic Bank Limited, the National Gas Company of Trinidad and Tobago, PwC, and GA Rowe & Sons Limited from Belize. Each of our sponsors are also bundle members of CCGI, and we appreciate their additional support. So to those of you here today who are not yet members, we wish to remind you that the Caribbean Corporate Governance Institute is a nonprofit membership organization, and we welcome everyone who wishes to join us in the pursuit of our purpose of improving corporate governance practices in the region. Today, our membership includes persons from Jamaica, Barbados, St. Lucia, Guyana, the British Virgin Islands, St. Martin, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Canada, Trinidad and Tobago, and last year we welcomed members from Belize. There are lots of benefits to being part of a vibrant organization like ours, including benefiting from discounts to our training programs. So if you are not yet a member, do consider joining us and actively contribute to the conversation on how we can improve leadership and governance to achieve sustainable outcomes. Persons may join as individual members, or your company may choose to pay for bundle membership, which can cover from 6 to 12 members. Today, we proudly continue our signature event, Governance Week 2024. As we turn our attention following our opening presentation, we will have two panel discussions, after which I will join our chairman, Nigel Romano, our global ambassador, Professor Bob Garrett, and Dr. Terence Farrell to wrap up and turn our attention to the future. Following this morning's presentation, the first panel, which will begin at 1 p.m., would look at the ISO 37000 Good Governance Standard, which provides guidance for governance of organizations. Our focus is on the importance of purpose. The moderator for that panel is our chairman, Nigel Romano, and we have three panelists, B. Roxanne Ford, Jose Trejo, and Daniela O'Connor. The second panel will run from 3 to 4:30 p.m., the topic being value creation, sustainability, and long-term value for groups and conglomerates. Our moderator is Francis Bain Cumberbatch from Ansa in Trinidad and Tobago. Our panelists are Claire Gomez-Miller, chairman of British American Company, Wayne Das, finance and business consultant, who is a former CEO of Caricris, and Karen Kelshaw-Lee, the group head of compliance at Guardian Holdings. We end this evening, as I say, with the final discussion looking at lessons learned and the way forward. At this time, I would like to beg your indulgence a little bit to briefly share on some of our upcoming events and workshops. On Monday, July 8th, Dr. Chris Pierce from the UK will be taking us through how a good board is run. Dr. Pierce brings global experience to us and is a very effective trainer in the online environment. So I encourage you to register and not miss this opportunity to interact with him. Then on Tuesday, July 9th, Lara Quantrill-Thomas will be conducting a workshop on building executive presence in the boardroom. This would be quite valuable for young executives who have joined boards and even those aspiring to be directors. We also have two workshops for deepening your understanding of financials. Howard Dutton will conduct financial stewardship for non-finance directors on Wednesday, July 17th. And Janita John from South Africa will conduct a 3-day workshop on identifying fraud, red flags in financial statements in early September. All of these workshops are online, so you can easily participate from wherever you are. And by now, most of you know we are also planning an exciting week of physical activities in Guyana that will run from November 19th to 23rd. There will be two physical workshops. The first on insurance and risk on Tuesday, November 19th, and the second runs for 2 days, Wednesday, November 20th, and Thursday, November 21st on governance and compliance. Both workshops will be facilitated by Claire Gomez-Miller. And the second workshop will include a simulation from Harvard Business Publishing, which I will help facilitate. On the Friday, we will host a panel discussion on effective board papers geared specifically to our corporate secretaries network, but we welcome everyone who is involved in the boardroom to be part of that panel discussion, after which we will have a book signing ceremony with Professor Bob Garrett, and then we'll have some fun as we enter into some unique Guyana games around a bonfire located by the lakeside. The week then culminates with a governance dinner and end-of-year networking event on Saturday, November 23rd, when the opening keynote will be delivered by our beloved Professor Bob Garrett. All of these events will be held at Splashman's Resort, which is a beautiful and unique facility built around a man-made lake in Georgetown. Registration is already open. We are offering a special package for room and meals for the weekend and are giving first preference to previous participants of our end-of-year event. Space is limited at Splashman's, so we encourage persons to please book your spaces before the end of July, after which we will be opening registration to everyone. And now I would like to make some brief housekeeping announcements for today. Most of you are familiar with these announcements already, and we sincerely appreciate that everyone abides by it. So we begin with asking you to please ensure that your full name is captured on the screen. This is because we are in a virtual room and everyone is able to interact very easily with everyone else in the room. So it's important that you are easily identifiable. We would also appreciate that everyone keep their microphones on mute. And if you do need to unmute to contribute at any point during today, please mute your microphones as soon as you are done in order to minimize any disruptive noises in your background. And of course, you can make comments or ask questions during in the chat feature at any point in time during the day. Now, finally, we will put up a survey link towards the end of the session, and we do appreciate those of you who take the time to fill that out. However, we will also be sending a survey next week to all participants of Governance Week so that we can get a comprehensive feedback from you on your thoughts for Governance Week. This is important to us because we do take your feedback into consideration when we plan and execute our events. And now we move forward with today's agenda. And to set the context, I just want to share some thoughts. In the book, Why Nations Fail, it is argued that violence and bloodshed in our history has embedded itself into the psyche of our people, contributing to the challenges faced over the last few generations. Today, it manifests in our governance structures and practices, and is exhibited in high levels of crime and corruption, weak government institutions, and even poor corporate behavior. The Smart States Club, a book published in January this year on how small states can change the world, offers a shining light for the future. In his book, Mr. Armen Sarkisian, former president of Armenia, gives a personal account of his interactions with leaders of many of these small countries, which have dealt with similar adversity like us, but which currently prosper because of choices made by their leaders to make a positive difference. These include Botswana in Africa, Ireland in Europe, and Qatar in the Middle East, as well as his country, which had been under Russian control as part of the USSR. Each of these have demonstrated how possible it is to emerge victorious despite adversity and limiting beliefs, which is another way to say mental slavery. Today, our world requires us to be innovative, creative, and brave, but more so to act with integrity and honor in bringing the kinds of changes so necessary to save the planet and make people's lives better. As we focus on our theme of regenerative capitalism, promoting exceptional governance for small states, we are encouraged to think about how each of us can individually, positively impact our world. For Governance Week 2024, our challenge is to address how we take charge of our destiny and build a bright future that embraces the triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit. This, after all, is the basis of a capitalism that does not exploit, but seeks profitable organizations that utilizes and restores resources, leaving it for future generations. And with those opening thoughts, it is now my absolute pleasure to invite our key speaker for this morning. As I mentioned earlier, our opening presentation is delivered this morning by Dereck Rajack. And Dereck is the Chief Executive Officer of the Caribbean Information and Credit Rating Services Limited, CARICRIS. He is a highly experienced risk management professional, having served for over 20 years in the financial services sector of the Caribbean. He is an effective and proven leader with over 15 years in executive and senior leadership roles, leading teams of professionals with varying technical, and cultural backgrounds across multiple territories. During his time, he held roles in overall enterprise risk management, as well as specialized roles in credit risk and market risk management. Dereck holds a BSc in mathematics, first class honors, from the University of the West Indies, the Financial Risk Manager, FRM professional designation, as well as the Sustainability and Climate Risk, SCR certification, both from the Global Association of Risk Professionals. Dereck, I proudly welcome you as part of Governance Week 2024, and I invite you now to share your thoughts as you deliver this morning's opening segment.
All right, thank you for that, Kamla. Are you hearing me clearly?
Yes, we are.
All right, thank you, and good morning, everyone. And thank you guys for the opportunity to participate in Governance Week. I think, coming from a risk background, I could safely say in preparing for this session, and pulling together some of the slides and notes that I wanted to focus on, it's very clear how inextricably linked governance and risk management are. So I'll jump right in and I'll start and I'll share some slides with some tables later on that I'd want to focus on, and kind of go through some of those key points. So for the first thing is, when we think of risk, we think of some kind of probability or possibility of something bad happening or something negative happening. All right. So risk is really the probability of a negative or adverse outcome that could impact your business objectives, your operations, or even reputation. When we talk about risk management, we have two key things that we focus on as an outcome of risk, which is one, its potential impact. What's the level of the impact and how bad can things really get? Also, there's the probability of the event occurring, so how likely it is to occur. So those are two key aspects of risk that I'll open with, as opposed to governance, which complements risk management in the sense that governance refers to all your systems, procedures, processes, and policies that the organization uses to direct and control its operations. And key components of that are things like your oversight, talking about things like board and committees, accountability, ethics, and so on. So I'll show one quick analogy here that kind of helps put into perspective what risk management focuses on versus what governance would focus on. And I found this to be a quite interesting analogy, that you could think of risk management as the seat belt in your car, right? It's there. You hope you don't need it, but you're always happy it's there in case of any unforeseen events, right? So that's how risk management works. Most risk people work sort of quietly in the background, ensuring that things are in place and ensuring that, the necessary frameworks and so on are in place in case there are, events that may impact our various organizations. And then you have governance, which is sort of like the GPS in the car. So the governance now ensures that you're heading in the right direction. You're not all over the place, just taking random turns to get to your destination. So you have those two systems working together, one to ensure that you're getting to where you're going in the most efficient manner, and then the other as your sort of safeguard in the event that something happens along the way that could put you at risk, right? So that was an interesting analogy, and I think it sets a good context for some of the points that I'm going to raise. I'm gonna show this here, and I'm gonna test everyone later on it, just to see how much you remember. Kidding. But some of these are some key terms that I'd like people to keep in mind, because I'll show later on how we integrate risk management into governance frameworks. And what I'll also show is what happens when you have weak governance frameworks and the kind of risks that could pop up. And some of these will come back in those sessions, in those slides. So our general risk management process, and many of you here are governance professionals or finance professionals, and so it may be similar to how you conduct your own process. So in a general risk management framework or process, we focus on 5 key things. One is identifying the risks that your organization faces, right? You must know, based on the business that you're running, what are your risks. Now, the theme today is conglomerates. And we know conglomerates, some of them operate in multiple industries, some of them might operate across countries. And each of these different types of operations or territories of operations could present unique and different risks. So risk identification is important. Once you identify a risk, the next step is to assess the impact that it can have. Sometimes we refer to that as a measurement stage. So you have the risk identification, then you go into an estimation of the impact that those risks that you've identified can have. And once you've done that, the next step is to come up with, okay, what's my strategies to ensure that I can manage these risks? Now,